All right, we've got a talk, session, whatever for you called Navigating Uncharted Waters, Powers and Pitfalls of AI. So a little bit of backstory here. Since the last assembly, we got some feedback. People wanted to spend more time getting to know each other. You guys really enjoy meeting each other. Check, you guys already have new friends. Nice. Also, we've heard a lot of people looking for information about AI. We've already heard a lot about it today. But we, with all of that input, we're like, well, yeah, why don't we do a workshop? And yeah, better than a workshop, why don't we do it at the end of the day after people have sat through 7 incredibly heady sessions? I'm like, yes, let's do that. What a fantastic idea. So we're going to do it. We're going to keep it light because we know you're kind of full. We're going to hopefully make it a little bit fun. I'm actually just going to rebrand it right now. It is not a workshop at all. This is Camp AI, and I am your counselor. I have my compass. I'm ready to lead. I also have my phone, which is weird when you're giving a presentation. But we have a boat to catch, so we're going to try to stay on time, and I'm going to time all of our little activities. Okay. I didn't realize there was a build on this. Oh, sorry. You know what? I'm already confused. So we have a couple goals for our workshop today. We want to spend this time together making sure that at the end of it, we have shed some light on some of the practical applications and limitations of AI, that we, every single one of us, have had the opportunity to shape a very simple AI-based solution. This is a very low-stakes environment. You'll have a lot of support. And finally, remind ourselves that we have everything we need to move forward successfully, despite all of the unknowns that are ahead of us. This is our itinerary for today. You see, we're going to just basically fold some activities into a talk. We're going to start with just taking a look at kind of what's so right now for all of us. Then we're going to take a look back in history and talk a little bit about some of the innovations that have happened for us, to us, over time, and how we've adapted. Then we're going to get ready to play. So we're going to do, we know we have this exercise coming up. The one part where you're going to have to do a little bit of work is in this section 4 here. It's not going to be hard work, I already promised that. But we are going to prep ourselves. That's when Jen's going to come back up to the stage. And we're going to close out by talking about really what it takes to make something like this real. So one thing, for those of you who have already spent a lot of time thinking about AI, working with an AI, have a pretty good understanding of how large language models work, you can think of this as sort of a refresher and maybe a time to play some games. So we are going to kind of break it down into pretty simple terms. Okay, any questions before we get started? Everybody has like a placemat and a marker and some stickies. Yeah, it looks like we're all good. Okay, well, let's get started. So we're all in the same boat. Gen AI arrived on the scene a couple of years back. It's been evolving, causing a stir ever since. I'm not really quite sure what to do with it. Now we have agentic AI to think about as well. Jen and I have been exploring this pretty deeply for the last little bit more than a year. Jen more deeply than I, but I've gotten my fair share of it as well. We've learned a lot. And the most important thing we've learned is that just like with everything, the only constant is change. In fact, I'm a little bit worried that by the end of this talk, all of it will be irrelevant, and you'll want your money back. We've also talked to a lot of clients about AI in this time. And early on, so this has changed a little bit, but early on they really all had the same request, and that request was, one AI, please. No, not really. Nobody said that, actually, but it's sort of what it felt like. And really what was happening is they weren't really sure what to ask for. They mostly wanted to know, well, what can it really do? And how, maybe could I use it in my business, but maybe even more important than that, like how are other people like me using it in their business? They wanted ideas. That's fine. We have moved on, but we don't like that question anyway, because that looks like a solution, kind of hunting for a problem. It's not how we like to operate. We prefer to start from the problem, understand really what's needed, and then put together the right solution to meet the needs. And maybe it includes AI. These days, a lot of times it includes AI. We know a lot of people can't get funding for their projects unless it includes AI. We get that. But it might not always, and there might be other ways to do it as well. So we want to consider it in the context of all the other tools that we already have available to ourselves. There's a little bit of a caveat here. So AI, again, talking generative and agentic, it's new. And so there may be some problems that we've tried to solve in the past and weren't able to. We still remember them. There may be some problems that we've solved in the past using earlier digital technologies that were available to us, and we think maybe now there's a better way to solve them, and that's cool. So we can definitely take that as a starting point as well, but it still is starting from the problem because we still need to go back and understand the context and really get a sense of what the problem is and what the right solution might look like, and then bring AI to bear in a way that will really work for the human beings who will be using it. But the point here, though, is that teams across all of our clients, within our own organization, are feeling this pressure to capitalize on the promise of AI, and people are kind of worried about it. Okay, so we're coming to our first activity here. This is, I love opening sessions with this activity. Really gets people sort of thinking, gets them in the space. It's called Hopes and Fears. You should have in front of you on your easel, there should be a board that says Hopes and Fears at the top. You might want to rearrange your easel so that everyone in your group can see it easily. So you might have some, a little bit of rearranging to do. So you should have that. And then what each of you needs in addition to this is, here, I can actually show you. Look, here it is. What each of you needs here is one of the big stack of stickies. There should be standard size stickies of 3x3s, and then there's a smaller size sticky that we'll use later for the placemats that are in front of you. So take the standard size stickies, take your marker, and what we're going to do is we are going to take 10 minutes total for this exercise. We're going to take just 2 minutes. I've already spoken with several of you. I know there are lots of hopes and fears in the room that you'll easily write down. Take 2 minutes. Make sure you get at least one hope, at least one fear. After 2 minutes, I'll remind you, if you haven't already moved on, to chat about them among your table. You can add things if you want to. As you're sharing, please cluster them. So find the similar hopes and the similar fears and cluster them on your board so that we sort of have a sense. And then after about 5 minutes, I'm going to ask, not all of you, we don't have time for that, but at least a handful of people to share what's coming up at their table so we can get a sense of the hopes and the fears that are in the room. So with that, I will start my timer. It's super weird to have a phone up here. I don't even have it set up right. And you guys can get started. 2 minutes, and I'll let you know when it's time to move on to the chatting part. Go. This is our mascot. His name is Lonnie. I got him in Maine probably, 40 years ago, and he finally has a real purpose in life. Okay, so let's hear a little bit from the room. I'm going to set another timer because, like I said, we got a boat to catch. What are we hearing? Who wants to share a hope? Let's start with hopes. They always feel a little bit better. Anybody have a good hope to kick us off with? Increased efficiencies. Yep. Anybody else have increased efficiencies on their board somewhere? Show of hands, everybody's got increased efficiencies. All right, what else is showing up?
Yeah, we have speed up tasks, quicker ideation cycles. So it's a really focused
productivity. So you said, Danielle, speeding up tasks, and what was the other one you said? Prototypes?
Quicker ideation.
Quicker ideation. Yep, okay, great. Anybody else? Quicker ideation, faster cycling through, the steps of your processes. Cool, anything else? What else is showing up? Are we fear heavy in this room? What is happening? We're fear heavy. Okay. Well, any other, if we have no more hopes, we can move on. Yeah, okay.
Ours is kind of related.
Yes.
The ability to outsource monotony, I love that language.
Outsource monotony.
Focus our effort on high-value things that are worth our time.
Yeah.
And also with that comes the opportunity to dramatically change who has jobs and possibly, magnify inequity and balance as opposed to, raise everyone up. So it's kind of two-sided coin there.
Yeah, it is. So that's a lot. That's great. So actually, the first part of what you said is actually aligned with a lot of what we talk about, which is speed up what we can so that we can slow down and focus on what matters. Yeah. But then the flip side of that you're talking about is this increased inequity. What are some of the other things you said?
Yeah, that opportunity we were talking about.
Yeah.
People losing jobs. Right?
Yep.
And that's a real consideration as someone who shepherds people and manages the culture.
100%. Yep. Okay. Well, we've moved on to fears. Anybody else feeling that fear? Yeah. Okay, what else? What are these other fears? We have so many fears.
We talked about it's moving so fast, so are we actually prepared for the possibility?
Yep.
Are we investing in the right applications now?
Yeah, yep. So short-term versus long-term decisions that need to be made. What can we do now to make sure things are future-proof, but also take advantage of what's possible right now? Things are changing pretty fast, yeah. Wait, I'm sorry, say the second half of that again?
Can you trust the information? Is it accurate?
Can we trust it? Is it accurate? Yep. I know I found some false things while I was even working on this talk. Yeah.
The hallucinations and the recent models suddenly
Tanya, you got a microphone? Yeah, I think that's going to help. I can barely hear you guys. I'm sorry.
Just extending on accuracy, so the hallucinations that we experience now, in the newer LLMs that have come out, the percentage of errors has only increased, which is obviously not good.
Disheartening, right? Yeah. Anybody else? Any other fears?
I think something we talked about in an earlier conversation is like there's, unlike maybe mobile, I think everyone came around to a mobile phone. There's still some staunch sort of, I'm not into that freaks me out with AI. And so now we have this fractured audience, user base, whatever you want to think of, that may be more intense than in other sort of step changes we've seen in technology.
Yeah, totally. I'm up here talking about it. I'm supposed to be a cheerleader for it, but I'm also what I call a skeptical onion. Resolve one thing and there's another doubt surfacing from below, continues and continues and continues.
Yeah, one we have that wasn't mentioned was bias and how AI can be manipulated by bias as well.
Yeah, yep, big concern. We'll talk about that coming up in a couple minutes.
I'd say two quick ones. We talk about craft. Like
Craft.
You see craft. Potentially enforce like elimination of roles and
Yeah. Yeah, in my best, most optimistic self, which shows up sometimes. I'm the most optimistic pessimist you've ever met. But so when my optimist self shows up, I'm in this space of like, yeah, we can get rid of all the stuff we don't want to do so we can really focus on craft is something very important to my heart. Or the other things that matter, so family, taking care of each other, those kinds of things. And yet, I think we've all seen the meme that's like, if I wanted the AI to do laundry, like not make art. So where is it going? How can we actually have it make our lives better? It's one of the big questions I have. Will we? That's a willingness, not a can we. It's a willingness. Anybody else? Any last thoughts?
Well, we did touch on isolation.
Yeah.
We're afraid that it will drive to greater isolation.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of human or the humanity that we all share will become less and less.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, isolation when people are working sort of more independently, when we can do more with fewer humans. They're not with each other. We lose some opportunities there. Okay, any final thoughts? Our timer just went off.
The movie Terminator was also a concern.
The movie Terminator, like if it just comes to reality, big concern. You're worried about Arnold specifically, or wait, no, he was. Yeah. Okay. Important tip: no nuclear codes for the Terminator. Great. Okay, we're going to shift gears here a little bit and take a look back. We're going to pick up where Ryan left off this morning. Naturally, we're going to do this through navigation. It is our underlying theme for the day. And talk about other emerging technologies and how we've sort of adapted to them, incorporated them into our lives. Headline here, yes, we're very practiced at this. We've been doing this for a very, very long time. We're going to do this with our maritime chronometer. It's changed seafaring forever. Ryan alluded to this morning. But really, the detail here is that it was the key to longitude, so really knowing where they were sort of around the world. They knew where they were up or down, but how could they figure out where they were around it? And Ryan mentioned this morning, it was about accurate timekeeping. Took me a minute to get my head around this, like how it actually worked. Thank goodness for my husband. So if you're anywhere in sea and you know it's high noon where you are and you know exactly what time it is in the port you left, you can figure out exactly where you are from a longitude perspective using a little bit of math. Take a moment right now to vindicate trigonometry. Nobody loves it. This is actually what it's good for. But that's sort of the how they found longitude. The more interesting question to me is what it took to actually trust that they could use it, that they knew that really was where they were, that they could take advantage of that information to understand sort of the hazards that were nearby, all the things they'd want to know, and that they weren't just going to like die out in the open ocean, which before they had this, they hugged kind of closer to the coasts and kind of knew where they were by landmarks. I mean, like if someone gave you a new tool and said, this can help you get to England, just go that way, would you do it? Probably not. You probably would test it a little bit first. And they did too, I'm sure. I don't know exactly how, but what I imagine is that they probably used it while they were closer to shore, saw what their land, first test it on land, but then take it out closer to shore where they had some other indicators of where they were and kind of make sure, oh yeah, this seems good, further, kind of like a toddler leaving their parent, right? Like further and further out. It's a little bit easier for me to imagine if we think about radar, which they also had to trust. And again, like I don't know, but in my imagination, I can say, you want me to fly right through that really dense cloud? I do not think so. Until I had taken some time to maybe test it out with no clouds and then maybe thinner clouds, et cetera. But the point is, we did start trusting these technologies, and we incorporated them into our navigation toolkit. And we've done this for a very long time. So, we've been looking at maps. Ryan showed some very early ones this morning. Here's a more modern one, but we've had maps for over 10,000 years. And then you can see there are a variety of navigation innovations across this. This is just a selection of them. But with each one, we've incorporated it in. We've gotten more sophisticated, and we've been willing to go new ways, new places, et cetera, et cetera. Some of them have made people probably more nervous than others. Some of them are now obsolete. I don't know if any of you felt nervous the first time using a Garmin or like Google Maps. I've used it. I didn't, except in Boston. Never trust Garmin in Boston. It will get you lost almost immediately. But I didn't have any trouble. I'm having some trouble with self-driving cars. I was speaking with Scott about this yesterday. He has one, and I'm like, whew, not for me, not quite yet. But I expect that's going to be something that most people have in their lives, and maybe everyone. That's kind of where it would be safest at some point. So anyway, we keep embracing new technologies. Things keep changing, getting better, I hope. We are more sophisticated. Same thing is true in digital technology. This is actually a stolen slide, augmented a little bit from Ryan's talk last year. In digital technology in particular, and some of you have alluded to this in the room already, the last 50 years have been transformational, and most of us in this room in the last 30 years have lived through 3 pretty significant revolutions with the internet, social media, and then the smartphone. And we've incorporated them into our toolkit, and we are using them successfully. So anyway, as part of our exploration around AI, a maturity model emerged. This actually applies to all of emerging technology, but it sort of describes this process of taking a technology in and making it yours, having it be part of your everyday. It's written here in terms of artificial intelligence, but it applies really to any emerging tech. And it starts from this sort of like space where we're exploring in pockets and different people are trying things out, and we move through this like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, we're both doing the same thing. Let's do it together. What are you learning? What are you learning? Okay, cool. And then we get to a point where we have some standards. And then we all of a sudden are really working together, like cooking with gas, and we're in this space where it just is a thing that we have and that we know and that we trust and that we can use in a standard way. We have our governance in place and so on and so forth. So, we were talking about AI too. Like, I'm kind of pretending that it's just that easy. AI does feel a little bit more unsettling than some of the other technologies that we've embraced. So there are a couple of reasons for that. We've touched on some of these throughout the day as well, and even right here. So it's unpredictable. It's getting more predictable, but it's unpredictable. We've seen a couple of high-profile failures where it just really hasn't worked. We don't necessarily intuitively, maybe some of you do, but we don't intuitively understand how it works, and that makes it a little bit scarier. And then in some cases, it turns out it doesn't. And this, when I was looking for examples to share on this one in particular, I instead found a new word which I love, which is photomation. F-A-U-X, right? So it was pretty funny. I'd never seen that before, so I got a chuckle out of it. But anyway, there's one more, and the Terminator comes to mind here. So we've seen a lot of dystopian novels and movies, and we're kind of feeling like, ooh, is this that? Is that coming for us? So it does feel a little bit different, but we believe that following that same journey and going through those layers of maturity, we will get to a place where it does feel comfortable to us, where we do understand how to use it and are using it well. Okay, so we're moved on to our next activity, and this is one we're going to kind of poll the room. Now, Kathy told us earlier that we are all liars, so I want you to not lie, because the intent here is not to show off. The intent here is really to just get an understanding, like we are really kind of all in the same boat. So I'm just going to ask a series of questions, and we're going to do show of hands. Who here, whose company has established guiding principles for the use of AI? Okay, smattering of hands, that's great. That's good. Okay, cool. Lucky you. Whose company has a standardized process for evaluating AI opportunities? Similar hands? Iffy? Yeah. Cool. Whose company has access to the tools and training that they need to experiment with and use AI? Iffy. All right, so not quite as many, some, hands up. It's no surprise I'm seeing sort of the same hands come for, and it's about, like, if I just do my, like, very accurate polling technology from the stage, it's about half here. And whose company is using AI in meaningful ways to support their business activities today? A few fewer hands, yeah, and some more shake. It's a little bit shakier. Okay, one more question. I'm curious just to know in the room, overall approach to AI. Who is in the sort of proceed with caution camp? Yeah? Any move fast and break things? Couple. All right, cool. So we have really different approaches in the room. We can see that people are in a variety of places, but most people are not super mature. I did see, it's nice to see that people are making inroads into this, the governance that's needed and getting access to the things that they need. There are really exciting things ahead of us. How are you guys feeling overall about your journey? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs to the side, thumbs to the side? It's like, yeah, oh, some thumbs up, okay, good. All right, so again, a variety of feelings about this. Yeah, this is not an easy one, and people are all over the place about it, and that's okay. We're all kind of learning at our own pace, taking it in as we can, taking advantage of it as it becomes possible. Okay, cool. So we're gonna bring Jenn back up to the stage now. So this is us getting ready for the hard work of dreaming up agents. We're gonna do just a quick primer, and this is really to kind of level set around generative. Again, we're sticking with generative and agentic here. Jenn's gonna show us the ropes, if you will.
Be happy to.
Yeah.
So if you're the camp counselor, then I'm the camp nurse.
Nurse.
And I'm here to set up the guidelines to keep everyone safe. Obviously, generative and agentic AI are new and full of possibilities, but before we look at our opportunities, we first want to ground ourselves in what the challenges are and some of the capabilities it does and does not have, just so that we're all clear. So, as I mentioned this morning, artificial intelligence is great at pattern recognition. It can process data, it can find patterns, it can predict probabilities. It can fine-tune itself a little bit. That's coming more along the horizon. And it can be consistent in the ways that humans are not able to be consistent. As we mentioned, there are two types of artificial intelligence that are currently evolving. Generative, which creates quote-unquote new content based on its training data. And it's really helpful for applying brand guidelines. If you're looking at content optimization for search engine optimization purposes, it's terrific at that. But it does need human oversight because of hallucinations. It can cause issues. With agentic, we're looking more at completing tasks in order to achieve goals. So you can actually combine several large language models or agents to work agent to agent to provide help with more complex problem solving. It can make decisions, it can adjust strategies as it needs to, but also needs constraints and oversight. So what is AI a good choice for? Processing vast amounts of information, identifying trends, generating variations, allowing feedback loops so that it can become more well-defined, performing repetitive tasks, as well as scaling. It's tremendous at scaling. But it cannot notice when information is missing, incomplete, or nuanced, and this is where we get hallucinations from. It is very confident when it tells you the answer, and then you ask it, where did you get that information? It'll go, oh, I just made that up. And that's really dangerous because it's so confident that we believe it when we shouldn't. It can not understand requests in any way other than just taking it exactly literally. It can't grasp the why behind what it is we're asking it to do. It doesn't distinct from causation to correlation. It doesn't detect sarcasm. It performs complex or abstract logical reasoning very poorly. And it's difficult to identify biases because really, if you think about it, what it's doing is it's looking at its training data, and if its training data is incomplete, then it's incomplete as well. So it's a mirror of the data that it has to work with. And that's why it's only good if you have a good data source. A perfect example, I recently talked to a client who had a large language model that she wanted to be taught grammar. And I was like, why does your large language model need to be taught grammar? She's like, it's terrible at it. I said, well, what's your training data? And she says, Slack messages. The time that we're the worst at grammar, right? I'm like, okay, well, that's your problem right there. And then biases. You guys might be familiar with the story from a few years ago where Amazon created a LLM to rank resumes, and it was downgrading all the resumes of people who had attended all women's colleges. For me, that's a perfect example of bias within the data, but it's also an opportunity to lean into that organizational change, right? What I would have preferred to have seen was Amazon take that information, lean into it and say, we need to do better, rather than running away from the bias that was intrinsic to their data. Biases can also be helpful. They can be like good grammar. Claude is perfect at this. If you ever have an email or a presentation you have to create, I recommend you run it through Claude because it's fantastic at sentence syntax and grammar. And then, of course, humans have to play a critical role, both in setting up AI for success as well as ensuring that it stays on the rails. So organizations like One North focus on the strategic aspect of AI implementation because we know that it's the humans who can come in and say, this is where the appropriate use case is, and these are the guardrails we need to set around this because this is what it does well and here's what it doesn't. And that involves everybody from design to UX to data. We all need to be involved in order to determine what the appropriate solution is so that we don't find ourselves in dire straits.
Cool. Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.
Everybody got it? Ready to go? Well, we are going to play a game to kind of just reinforce these patterns in action, just get a sense of pattern recognition, how we can sort of internalize what it might mean. We're going to play a game. The early bird catches. Yell it out. Enthusiasm. I know it's late. Cool. How about this one? If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Another one, all the glitters, not gold. Little by little, the bird. Yeah, this is a trick. This one's French. Is Ryan here? Does he want to try to pronounce it? No? Cool. Here's another one. First pancake. Always a lump. Nope, that's another trick. This one's Russian. Okay. So this isn't exactly how AI works, but at the same time, it kind of is. So the reason that we all know these things so well, we know this, we've heard them throughout our entire lives. So it's just like it's like baked into your brain. You hear those words and you're just like, yeah, I just need to keep going with this one. I know what to say. That's exactly what a large language model does. It finds that pattern. It's like, oh, I know what comes next. I'm going to do it. Jen described it this morning, even with the pixels of an image, as it's kind of generating how many fingers, Jen? Like 8 million? Yeah, so many fingers. So that is kind of what it does. So it's good. And the thing, we don't know the French or the Russian. We didn't grow up there, so we aren't hearing those. Now you guys are going to know those ones. You're like, yeah, the first pancake is always a lump. And you're going to bring that into your kitchens, and I'm loving it. I don't know how to pronounce it in Russian, so I can't help you there. But maybe you can, I bet Google can tell you. Quick note, Jen talked about hallucinations. We do it too. So this is important to remember. We are not perfect. Does anybody recognize this lyric? Maybe this one? Anybody want to sing? This one's a little bit more maybe for the Gen Xers among us. Phoebe made this one famous. John Fogerty likes this one so much he now uses it in concert. He's getting pretty old, but he's still performing. Did you guys know? He's like, 80-some odd years old. He's still touring. We don't need to talk about humans being biased, right? That's exactly the reason that we see the bias in AI. It's all us. It's all us. Another thing, we hallucinate in good ways, and AI can't do the same thing. So you guys look at this image. What does anybody see? Does anybody see something in here? Shout it out. I can't hear you. It's a shell. Yeah, it's a shell. So AI can't see that. It can only see things that have edges. I asked it to try. I asked Gemini. It gave me a nice little paragraph or a sentence saying kind of what it saw. Circular, yeah, flowing lines, cool. Claude said a little bit more. I think it mentions yin-yang in here somewhere. Kind of wrote me an essay about it. So to Jen's point, a lot more articulate. Pretty fun. So what it can and can't see. This is a uniquely human thing. We can see the in-betweens, true literally and metaphorically as well. This is kind of fun. I love serendipity. So I'm putting this thing together about these proverbs, and all of a sudden something surfaces in Facebook. Is serendipity actually a thing anymore? Is everybody, like, my phone's listening, right? Anyway, so what came through my feed is this idea that, if you're tired of proverbs, like, artificial intelligence can just make up new ones for you. And I'm like, cool, let's do that. So I got these were a few of my favorites. It is very prolific. Trees with deep enough roots laugh at storms. Yes, they do. And even sports cars need to stop for gas. So you can incorporate these into your daily lives if you want as well. I think they're quite profound. If you're not sure what they mean, AI also gives us the meanings. Moving on from there, AI will also give meaning to pretty much anything. Now, we do this too, this is not special, but I tried a couple things. I was like, well, what if I just make up a proverb? Will it tell me how meaningful and deep I am at my core without even trying? So I tried a few. I tried oceans are deep and rivers are fast, but don't underestimate the puddle. Did a pretty good job. I did sometimes snails like salt. Did a pretty good job with that. They seemed too obvious though, so I went with something a little bit simpler. I went with otters always win. And ChatGPT went to town. Like, it didn't just give me one, it gave me like 5 meanings. My favorite, of course, is playfulness triumphs. I think that's amazing. I also think it's true. Stay playful, you'll stay happy. And I'm out of here, that's enough, right? I love that it can do this. I think it's hilarious. Have fun with it. This is, take a break from your day, go out, make up some new proverbs, see how brilliant you are. Okay, so we're all experts now, and we are going to move on to our next exercise. So, I am going to do a little bit more context setting. I'm not just going to ask you, hey, make up an agent. Please go do it. We have a set of steps to follow. We're going to talk a little bit more about what that means before we get to it. Your materials are already in front of you, so you can take a sneak peek if you feel like it. But this morning when Jenn was talking, she put a couple of diagrams up on the board. We are not doing this. Agents themselves, they fall into a handful of categories. They're pretty abstract in nature. We're not going to take time and like diagram all that kind of stuff out. It wouldn't even be particularly meaningful. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit more of a casual approach, and we're really just going to map out the kinds of tasks that an agent could accomplish on our behalf. And those things fall into the categories Jenn talked about, tools, actions, planning, and we've made a list of them here. You can see it's actually kind of long. What is this, like 9 or 10 different kinds of things that it can do. I'm not going to read through this right now. I am going to put it back up when you guys start working on the exercise, so you can refer back to it if you don't have it instantly memorized. But yeah, so we are going to be a little bit more casual. I am calling this a bridge to agents for us so that we can all kind of get it pretty quickly. You have everything you need. A couple of reassurances here. No right or wrong answers here. We're not going to be judging what you're doing. We're also not going to build any of it. So it doesn't need to be like a right or even good solution. And you can make this as hard or as easy as you want to. So this is an activity that's going to come in 2 parts. You should have a couple things at your table. We're going to work with the placemat that's in front of you first and with your little stickies. And there's going to be a 15-minute round that uses that. And then we're going to move on to, there's a board hidden behind your hopes and fears board. So if you take the hopes and fears board and set it aside, don't put it too far away because we're going to come back to it. You'll see that there's another board behind it that we're going to use to really showcase how agents can make our lives really, really easy. Once they exist, you can use them again and again. So part 1, we're going to design our own agentic solution. And this is going to take, I'm going to time you. We're going to choose a process. We're going to identify the tasks that an agent can complete or support and add them to the board in order. So this is basically mapping out a process flow. And then we're going to take another 4 minutes and we're going to add the human tasks that need to be there in order for us to keep it on the rails. And when we're done with all that, y'all are going to share among your table so that you're kind of familiar with the solutions that you all come up with and can remix them later. Choosing a process. So here, there's some thought starters. I think like here, the thing that we recommend is internal processes. So yeah, there are some neat things that we can do with customer-facing processes, but the internally facing ones are really the ones that we're leaning into. We think that's where the most benefit and the most value is. But so choose a process that you know well, one that you know, with everything you've learned or already knew coming in, one that feels like a good fit for what AI's capabilities are, and one that you think, not too complicated, right? So one that you think you can break down into 5 or 6 steps. A couple of ideas on the right here. There are definitely applications in the world of content management, inventory replenishment, customer support, scheduling, coordination of anything really, onboarding, lots of opportunities, or whatever else is coming in your head. The right level of detail, we are not getting down to like pseudocode here by any stretch of anyone's imagination. This is really just like sort of the self-contained task that you can kind of, if you squint at it, you're like, oh yeah, that's probably the process. Tools, actions, planning. And for the human, it is these points where the work of the agent needs to be checked. So places where you are not sure that an agent could make a choice reliably or pull in accurate information, where it's high risk for you, you really want to make sure that it's reflecting what you need. And then there's a final one here, which is if needed, it may be that a human actually has to kick the process off. Some of them might be like more or less I'm not thinking of the word right now, but they automated to start. But sometimes you need to start them yourself. I did make an example coming in so that you're not like coming in cold. The process that I chose to streamline was scheduling research interviews, which for any of you who do it is a large pain in the patoot. It just takes a ton of work. And so I wrote down, again, very high level, some steps that we first need to prioritize our participants. We have some requirements that we're trying to meet. We create a schedule of just the available time slots for our interviewers. We compose and send a message out to our participants requesting availability. We update our schedule to reflect what we've learned from our participants. We then have to compose and send the invitation. We do that again. And we summarize, this would be nice, I love this, summarize the participant bio and notes and add them to the session interviewer, the dossier basically, so that they can have the right conversations with them. So this was the first part, the part that my agent can do for me, and then the pieces where I think that we need to have human involved are confirming that prioritization, making any adjustments that are needed after we've got that prioritized list of participants. We're going to want to review both of those messages going out until we learn to trust it maybe. Or if we have templates, maybe not as necessary. And then at the end, we want to review the notes. And that's not to make sure they're accurate. It's really to make sure that, again, we're having that right conversation with the participant. We adjust our interview guide as needed. And I did forget in mine, so I'm just going to stick it there off to the left. You can do the same. This is not intended to be some sort of like piece of art. Here, we need to initiate this. It's not like we're just randomly polling to see if an interview needs to happen. This is a thing that's pretty intentional. So I added my sticky there to the left saying, got to kick this guy off. Okay, and with that, it's time for you guys to get going. So the breakdown was 1 minute for just like picking, and then you'll just move on, 5 minutes for doing the stickies for your agent process, and then 4 minutes for the human pieces of it. And I will, again, remind you when as the time moves on so that you know where you should be. And then we'll move on and do the show and tell part of our exercise. So go forth, make an agent. I want to take, again, in the interest of time, would love to hear about everybody's agents, everybody's recombined agents. We're only going to take one because we got to move along. Does anybody have one that they're super excited to share with the room? Does anyone have a funny one they want to share with the room? Does anyone have one they want to share with the room? Thank you.
Wait, I'm coming.
So we actually were able to pull.
Yeah, can you actually, tell us about just a little bit about each of your four and then what we were able to recombine them into.
Oh gosh, I don't know if we can do that,
titles of them. What's the process?
we were able to pull one from each, and so what we did was one was process, one was thinking about shared calendars, alert on deviation. So you had an agenda that you had agreed to. As you go through it, and you realize we didn't meet these, or that would make adjustments to that. Yeah. All right. Oh, it's booming. And then we had recommending next best actions out of one of the other groups. So we put those together and actually applied to most of our problems, which we found pretty interesting, which like mine was around having better one-on-ones and file reviews with associates. His was like a more like mundane task of going through a bunch of information at the beginning of a day and try to figure something out from it. She was trying to coordinate executives, and she was trying to coordinate flight and travel potentially for people with different problems. And we found that if you put them in order, we just arranged them a couple of times. It actually was solving all of our problems. Yeah.
Well, how cool is that?
Yeah.
And there we have the power of agents. That's amazing. So it's one agent with a similar task, and it just does quadruple duty. Probably way more than that. That's awesome. Okay, so thank you guys for your participation. This has been so fun to watch. Would love to hear how you felt about these exercises actually, because we will continue to evolve them.
Thank you.
But right now we're gonna keep going. Just again, catch that boat. So these placemats obviously are just the beginning. They sort of equate to like that napkin drawing for your next best idea that then becomes that $1 million whatever. But there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done to make them real, because the technology here is actually the easy part. The idea, the tech to actually get something like this up and running, it's really pretty straightforward, assuming, giant caveat, that you have the data in place that you need to support it. There's a whole lot more that needs to be thought about. So moving from that proof of concept into a scaled solution takes really a lot of thought. And we have sort of a laundry list here of areas that need to be thought through. From the very top, like what governance needs to be in place for this thing to really work for our organization, all the way down through how do we measure its effectiveness and see that it was like a good idea, that we should keep going with it, and a whole lot of stuff in between. It's a lot to cover off on. We've actually organized this into a human-centered approach. Naturally, it's what we do. We do experiences, always human-centered. This is the same 4 phases that we talk about any and all of our client work. Clients are going to be in one of these 4 phases regardless of what we're working on with them. And we here have a set of tasks listed out that are related to artificial intelligence, generative agentic AI specifically. It's a lot to read, but the point is that there's a set of things that you can do pretty intentionally, regardless of where you are in this in your life cycle along this approach, whichever phase you're in. For us, we'll join you on any part of the journey. Meet you where you are. Different clients need different things. But this is our definition of a human-centered approach to incorporating artificial intelligence into your organization. A few parting thoughts for us, just some things to remember about artificial intelligence itself. 1, 2, 3, it's built on pattern recognition. We played our game about that. The context is 100% critical. That data piece, can't live without it. Will not succeed without it. And then humans remain indispensable, so make sure that you're paying close attention to where they need to be included in the loop in order for your AI to not go rogue. We also have a quick tried and true strategy, so we showed the approach, again, a lot of words. There's a pretty easy way to think about this from our perspective. It is step 1, get smart. Step 2, start small. Step 3, test well, really, really important. And 4, have a backup plan, and then keep going. So this is an iterative process. You're not going to nail it the first time. You will try things, they will fail. You will try again, and you will find success. There's an important piece that needs to be added to this diagram, though. It is the rest of step 2, which is when you're ready, it's starting to build that foundation so that you can scale the solution when you're ready, when you've found the solution that you really want out in the world. Okay, so friends, where are you? We have a gift for all of you. While we were putting together this talk, I looked at some of the early versions of the slides that Jenn pulled together. I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like a field guide. It's like we're learning and like taking notes about what does it do well. It's kind of like we're talking about birds here. What does it eat? And so we made a field guide for you. We decided that would be really, really fun. And we've developed so much content over the last year. We thought we could tell a deeper, richer story than the one that we were able to tell from the stage today. Had a lot of fun pulling this together. It was a little bit of a labor of love. I hope you enjoy it. It has some facts. It has some helpful hints. It has some stories. I'm super proud of it. Again, I hope you love it. Let's see, what time is it? It is... Yeah, we have like 2 minutes. We're going to step right over this Hopes and Fears Revisited. The questions really were, are any new hopes surfacing? Are any of your fears sort of feeling a little bit mitigated? Like, how are we feeling now? I'm not going to do this. We can talk about it tonight. We can talk about it anytime. We can talk about anything you want related to AI. But right now, we have one last instruction. Get out there and make the most of what AI has to offer. You have everything you need. Thank you.